And we'll start, as we sometimes start, when I remember, with our little introductory story. When the great Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov saw misfortune threatening the people, it was his custom to go into a certain part of the forest to meditate. There he would light a fire, say a special prayer, and the miracle would be accomplished and the misfortune averted. Later, when his disciple, the celebrated Maggid of Mezrich, had occasion for the same reason to intercede with heaven, he would go to the same place in the forest and say, Master of the universe, listen, I do not know how to light the fire, but I'm still able to say the prayer. And again, the miracle would be accomplished. Still later, Rabbi Moshe Leib of Sasov, in order to save his people once more, would go into the forest and say, I do not know how to light the fire, I do not know the prayer, but I know the place, and this must be sufficient. And it was sufficient, and the miracle was accomplished. Then it fell to Rabbi Israel of Rizhin to overcome misfortune. Sitting in his armchair, his head in his hands, he spoke to God. I'm unable to light the fire, and I do not know the prayer. I cannot even find the place in the forest. All I can do is tell the story, and this must be sufficient. And it was sufficient. So today, I've chosen a story that's going to be a little bit challenging. The form of the story is it's written as a play, and we don't always think about plays as stories, but of course, a play tells a story, but it tells a story in a very specific kind of way. And this play is a play by a poet, Charles Reznikov, who was a poet. He died in the 70s. And he's a poet that I found to be a very interesting writer. He was very involved in writing poems about the United States and about Jewish heritage. Sometimes we have one of his poems recited on Yom Kippur when we have prayers remembering the Holocaust. So it's printed in our Machzor. Anyway, I find him an interesting writer, and he wrote a play, and this play is about the life of Uriel Acosta, or Uriel da Costa. Uriel Acosta was a man who was born at the end of the 1500s. He died in the middle of the 1600s. And his life is a fascinating life, a tragic life. He started off his life in Acosta, which is a place in Spain. And he, just to give a little background, because the play is going to be a tough read. His family was an okay, economically, it did all right as a Spanish family. However, it seems that the family was a family of conversos, meaning that they were living as Catholics, but they had originally been Jews, and they kept their Jewish identity secret. Uriel Acosta is a person, and this is as I say, a real person, who decided to return to Judaism. And he gets out of Spain so that he can do that. And he rejoins the Jewish community, but it's not all happy-go-lucky. It's not a Walt Disney movie and with a happy end. So I don't want to give too much away beyond that. It's a very challenging story, and I'm going to share the screen. And here we are. And I'll do this a little bit. And here's the beginning of the play, and it was written, I think, 1921, something like that. Okay. Oh, maybe I made a mistake. I said Spain, but maybe it was Portugal. Okay. Yes. Here we go. So this is a and let's see. Maybe since it's a play, it's going to be all dialogue with more than one person speaking, so we can have different people chime in, I hope. But we start off, I'll read the stage directions. Okay, I'll read the background stuff, and then we need somebody who's going to be Uriel Acosta's brother. All right, Josie. So here we go. Scene 1. In the house of the Acostas in Portugal at the close of the 16th century. Go ahead. You have to unmute. Josie, you have to unmute.
The rain will stop any day now. I was in the garden this morning. The inner leaves of the trees have turned brown. You have been too long over the Bible, brother. Take the horse and splash through the puddles of the road, the way Father used to.
Keep going.
There's a puddle in Father's coffin, I suppose. Death is so trite, and yet, but we should be the happier that Father has left this bubble, earth, for paradise.
Who's going to be Uriel?
I'll be Uriel.
Okie doke.
And your tears, my tears, a funeral is sad, whatever our wish whispers.
We are too near the Jews, our grandfathers, to speak so freely. Dominican Torquemada still listens at our hearts.
Okay, so let's just pause for a second. So the scene apparently is a rainy fall day, and they have buried their father. And the talking that they are talking with each other now seems to be a little bit dangerous, and we have to watch out that God, get out of here. What is this? No, there. And there. Thank you. Sorry for did you guys see all those other windows come up?
No.
Okay, just me. I was just interrupted with technical garbage. Okay, so so we have here the Jews are grandfathers. So not the father, but the grandfathers. So we can't speak freely. And Torquemada, of course, is an inquisitor who looked to persecute any Jews that he could find who were living as Christians. Okay, Uriel.
And your tears, whoops. Listen at mine, an uneven.
Right, our hearts. Go ahead.
Listen at mine, an uneven rhythm in its monotony, as if I would speak out and dares not, and would not, and would and dares not.
Dares not to me?
Here in Oporto, Mother Church takes those who grope too far, gently by the hands, and hangs them by those hands, hangs stones upon their feet, to lengthen their reach that, groping and groping, they catch hold of truth at last. Or else like Moses who split a rock for water, a man's thirsty. Mother Church lifts his head, and down his nostrils drips drop by drop. He chokes, but he gulped too much, would he not choke?
But if he gulped.
But if he gulped too much, would he not choke? Until he would swallow, like you and me, enough. They have burnt a woman with a queasy intestine that could not put up with bacon on Mondays. For having Jewish villi, what must be done to cure a queasy mind?
Okay, so what we have here is Uriel is reporting about different people who have been tortured and the different ways that they torture, and he's saying it in a kind of a sarcastic way. Oh, Mother Church wants us to grope for the truth, so they hang us by our hands and stretch us and kill us, and we're thirsty for the truth, and they suffocate us with they choke us by with water. They caught a woman who refused to eat bacon. Right, so these are all things that we know from the records. These are what happened all the time. So so the brother says, you won't talk to me, your heart won't be honest with me. And Uriel says, you know what, the walls have ears. Who knows what's going to happen here? Brother.
Will you scratch at the wall of the cathedral? Was that the servant?
You who see this wood, the world, Jesus walk, wringing his pierced hands. Shall I tell you that he was not Christ? Should I persuade you from your high estate? You for whom the only Son of God has died, who take his flesh in wafers in your mouth, whose priest hears out your story, your grave, the womb of the eternal. But I have come to our grandfather.
The womb of an eternal life.
But your grave, the womb of an eternal life. But I have come to our grandfather's belief. Should I go to Holland? Will they not rack and question you? Truly a Christian, until you cry out guilty, or are condemned, too stubborn to confess.
So what do we know from this speech about what's Uriel worried about, and what's the relationship with his brother?
I keep thinking about the Inquisition, even though this is Portugal and
the Inquisition was in Portugal too. The Inquisition was all over. So the Inquisition came to the Americas also. There was an Inquisition in Mexico. There was an Inquisition in New Mexico. There was an Inquisition wherever the church was. There was an Inquisition. But what is he saying also? He says, first of all, that I have come to our grandfather's belief. Right? So he wants to embrace Judaism. What about the brother?
Brother's a good Christian on the surface.
Brother is right. You truly a Christian. Do I want you to suffer because of me? If I run away, so would they let you alone? No, they'll torture you, and either you'll confess wrongly, or you'll refuse to confess, and then you'll die. So and you'll die anyway, even if you do confess. So I don't want to get you in trouble, right?
Will you leave our house, our garden, the streets you know so well, your honors and office?
Because I have to say some words and bend sometimes, hurt no one but myself, if at all. Is it not mad to throw away this comfortable life, which ended, for us is ended always, to thrust myself into risk of fire or twisting wheels, and not myself only, but the dearest to me? If only we could go on as we were, but I am of those madmen, brother, forgive me.
The servant.
In other words, here comes the servant, watch out.
Yes.
Here comes somebody.
Were the clouds lifting?
The sky seemed darker and more rain. And somebody has to be.
Somebody's going to be the servant. Anybody going to be the servant here? Any volunteers?
I'll be the servant.
Okay, go Merle.
Okay. I'll close the shutters against the smoke and smell. The wind sets this way.
Servant.
Servant, okay. Is it not time you went down, sir? The square is crowded. What heretics are burnt today, sir?
A Jewess and a Moor.
Search the cracks, crush, pour in boiling water, and think the bed clean at last. One or two are in the corner, or one or two are in a corner, and make as things bugs as before.
Make as many bugs.
And make as many bugs as before. Well, they burn hereafter.
And here?
Amen, sir. The master must not find us idle servants.
Uriel goes out, and to his brother, The
Do you
servant-
go?
I have some reading. When you have closed the shutters, bring a candle.
The servant does so. Uriel Acosta's brother reads until shrieking is heard, presses his hands against his ears. Okay, so the torturing is happening outside, all for the sake of the hereafter, but it's happening right here. And we have met the skeptic, the one who is searching and wondering how he can do this, get out of this situation, Uriel and his brother. So here, one of several men, scene 2. This is, we need another person. You know what? David, you ready to
Yeah,
jump in?
yeah, I can
Okay,
do it.
you're one of several men here.
Okay. We have been informed by Lisbon that you asked leave to go to France. You know that some of Jewish blood, free of us, disgorge and spit out their Christianity. We knew your father to be a Christian, but you, your fellow officers, have seen troubled, without trouble before your father's death, unless corrosion of the soul, not wrapped in faith.
We're a little worried about what's going on with him. They're noticing that there's something up. Uriel,
Salt in the air these days when the ships go down the river. To India or Brazil, all our lives, my brother and I have duly walked within Oporto.
okay, so, and now, you know what, David, you'll be the another one also.
The others.
Why to France, near Holland?
The French are skilled in the arts.
More so the Italians.
The University at Paris.
A better one at Salamanca. That's all.
Shrine.
An afterthought.
Okay, so, and now you're going to be the first also. But what are we getting here? What's happening with these people that are asking Uriel all these questions?
They want to know where he's going and why.
And why, right? It's suspicious. What's wrong with staying right here? Your family's from here, you're here. What's going on here? Why do you want to leave? We've heard that some people, they leave in order to become Jews. Is that what you're doing? You know, what's so good about where you're going? Why don't you go somewhere else? So he's trying to give, you know, excuses and alibis. Okay, our first of many men. Go ahead.
So that's me again, I guess, right?
That's you, David.
Okay. We who are your father's friends, may we not warn you not to waste his wealth and your lives in an idle journey. Lucky if you can return to this rock on which we stand. We will say to Lisbon that you have changed your minds. A fancy of grief for a dead father in the dead man's house, and youth eager to forget.
Okay, so they're gonna make some kind of excuse for them. And now let's see, Uriel's brother.
Well, for
Will you
them,
not
but
listen to
it's really Uriel, right? Not.
Right, Uriel's brother is there.
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna now find out. Is Uriel's brother with him or not?
Okay.
Yeah. Will you not listen to them?
If
Oh.
you have souls,
We
mine
have
has a
souls. If we have souls.
If we have souls, mine has a running sore. With my thick flows of lies, I know the captain of a ship will row about the harbor as if for sport, at night climb aboard his ship, and with the tide sail out to sea.
When England exiled the Jews, the captain of their ship stole all they had and left them on a sandbar in the channel. The tide came up, and so they drowned. If your friend should serve us so,
I know that here is bad, and there, who knows?
Okay, so they're ready to take every risk. He's got to get out of there. He doesn't know who to trust, whether the escape through that ship will work out or not, or whether he'll be betrayed by the captain. He's not taking the helpful advice of the friends who say, just, why don't you just change your plans? When we'll just chalk it up to your being a young, mourner for your father. You're not thinking straight. No, he's got to get out. Okay, scene 3, we are now in Amsterdam. Okay, and now who's going to play rabbi?
Why not you? You're a rabbi.
All right, I'll be the rabbi.
So it looks as though they made it to Holland.
Right, they made it to Holland. I mean, this is a play, so it cuts out some stuff. Actually, Uriel's trip was a little more convoluted than that. And he didn't get to Holland right away. But eventually he did make it to Amsterdam. So here we are.
And his brother joined him.
And that's what it seems like. He's here with his brother. Yep. All right, the rabbi. Since we are not to boil the kid in its mother's milk, we are not to have butter with our meat, nor after meat milk, nor for milk dishes used for meat. Okay, Uriel, you have to make a gesture of impatience. Okay.
Yeah.
You must unlearn the uncleanliness of Christians. The rabbis have considered each thought and action. How much better to do what wise men have thought out and generations found good. So what we see here, what's the scene? What's happening actually?
They're learning how to be Jews.
They're learning, right? Even though they are, Jews in terms of their family heritage, family
Yeah.
lineage, but they never really learned what Jewish life is to live as a Jew. So here they're learning a little kashrus, learning the laws of how to keep kosher. And Uriel doesn't seem to be so happy with this, right? He's not such a happy student. And the rabbi is saying, patience, this is a lot of wisdom here. Have some respect for the wisdom of your elders, of the generations in the past. Uriel.
What wisdom is such that I must shut eyes and gulp it like a child medicine? In what reasoning or belief is more than error? Certain?
In what reasoning or belief is more than error certain? It's hard. Like I said, it's a poem, so it's a little bit tough. Okay, but I don't know how to make sense of that line that well either. In what reasoning or belief is more than error certain?
He's saying that
you could misinterpret.
Yeah, have error.
Right.
Not everything is what it seems.
So should we think things through, or should we just accept things through belief?
Yeah.
Is that the way we're going to get out of error? Okay, and the others are they're picking up their ears. Something's going on here. They're listening. Go ahead.
I have read, "Thou shalt not boil the kid in its mother's milk," was to forbid a heathen sacrifice, not food, but if food,
Not a question,
not that
statement.
But if food, not that which goeth into the mouth, defileth.
Okay, so what he says is, let's get back there just for a second. He says, I've read that the whole point of that verse is that they used to do this as a sacrifice, as a ceremony of a sacrifice. So don't do it as a sacrifice for idol worship. But it has nothing to do with food. There's nothing to do with eating meat and milk together. It's just don't do this as a pagan ritual, right? And if you want to start making rules about food, we have in these in italics, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth. This is a teaching from the Gospels. This is Jesus' teaching that making rules about what you can put and what you can eat and what you can't eat is stupid. That's not where it's what's in your heart that counts.
Sounds like Reformed Judaism.
Exactly, Reformed Judaism took this very seriously. So here's Uriel sort of chafing at these teachings, and he can't get away from what he had learned and absorbed, in his previous life as a Christian. So
But isn't this a way of differentiating a Jew from a Christian?
But he's not happy with what the Judaism is that he's beginning to discover.
Because he's not used to it.
Or he thinks because it doesn't make sense. So I'll be the other rabbi also. So the rabbi is trying to respond to him that what Uriel says about making rules about what we eat is not important. As if what hurts the body with which we are entrusted does not hurt the soul, whose machine it is. The body and the soul are together. The machine of the body, it helps the soul to operate. If you hurt one, you hurt the other. My son, you are young and new among us. Listen patiently. When you are old enough with thought about our laws, we shall listen.
Must I spend my life in mummeries and that common sense tells me at once are frippery and rigmarole?
Right? It's all garbage. This is all nonsense. This is what I have to spend. You're telling me to be patient with this? Uriel's brother.
Yeah. If no man is so great that you must follow blindly, are you so great that you may wave aside men like these? If prohibitions like these of milk and meat do not matter, why not obey them?
Who shall divide what matters and what not? Shall I, silent, see others wrong? They are afraid that I crack open the blacked out in the shells of their precious laws.
Okay, I'll be the chief rabbi too. We have withstood sword and fire. Surely words. But the young and foolish always with us. Turn and listen. Whoever pounds a drum and mounts a stool, follow him into the marshes of his thoughts.
Perhaps he is the sanest of you all.
Our sons shall be inheritors of his wisdom, that we are not infected with his folly. I forbid our congregation to greet you, talk to you, touch you, trade with you, hear you, look at you, or be near you. Okay, what has just happened? He has been excommunicated, right, for being a heretic, for being a bad influence on everybody.
Uriel,
That might be Uriel calling.
Uriel, we live this way or that and die. And surely earth is merciful, knowing us all so well. If we leave Holland, what land is left to us? These are closest to us, friendliest. Do as they do. Do not answer now. Let his blood cool in the shadows of our synagogue until the evening prayer, and the first star bring us here again. You will find him as I know him, a brother gentle and good.
Okay, so the brother is the calm one. On the one hand, is totally devoted to Uriel, to his brother. He follows him. On the other hand, he wants to keep everybody safe. He wants to make peace, right? They all go out, but Uriel.
This is to be my life. Pray, trade, eat, wive, and sleep. On Saturday, walk along the quays after the prayers for the afternoon, before evening prayers. Say what the next man says, bow when he does. Argue if the ass be on a journey and Sabbath come, so on, so on. Pocket my gulden with the best of them in the end. Wrapped in my prayer shawl go, they know where. They have the streets of heaven plotted and the houses numbered. And I may have a lease forever, a long time. The babble of their prayers cuts the knots of the world. Is the sun too swift? Pray, Joshua. The savages who have machines save time. The wheel turns, the praying stones, and God listens. I'll send them words to stick in their lives. Stick in their livers. How will my book begin? The ship sinks at last into gloom and knotted seaward, or falls to pieces on the white sand. The moves at every gust of wind like smoke. Why are you afraid of truth? If you are truthful, if what I say is false, why does the false die? But the false die? These with merchandise cross oceans or barter in an alley. Free as the tethered goat, I must feed. Upon truth and falsehood, although it gives me colic.
So he's got this, melancholy soliloquy, right? Where he's not too happy, right? What is it that he's saying overall? What does he see his lot if he makes peace with the rabbis?
Like he'll do it, but he's not happy about it. He doesn't understand it.
What
And
else?
why should I do it other than to make the rabbis happy?
Yeah, anybody else? He doesn't just want to be a conformist with the crowd, right? He goes there, everybody's doing this. They have their Shabbos routine. They talk about these things. This is what they do. He finds it silly. He finds it boring. He finds it not inspiring for his spirit. So he's very, very, he feels stuck. Right now, let's understand again what is going on with him. Remember, he risked his life to get to Amsterdam. He gave up his Christian comfort and came to a new community that he, was rushing to embrace. But then he finds out that he's really not in love with this community. He's not in love with the Torah as they interpret it, right? Okay, scene 4. The noise of stones flung against the closed shutters. Uriel opens the door of the room. In answer to loud knocking, a soldier enters and arrests him.
I understand no Dutch.
All right, David, how about we're going to need here we're going to need one of the Jews. We need watchmen. Merle, how about being one of the Jews? What the hell? You there?
Yes, I am. I just had to turn on my mute, off my mute. Okay, I'm going to be one of the Jews.
We're
Okay.
crowded in, and now turn to Uriel.
The jail and gallows are easily understood. The key in the lock squeaks stay, and the knot rubbing on the gallows rope says jump.
Ooh.
Uriel is led away. Boys tear up his books and papers until driven out by the watchmen. 2 old Jews. Okay,
Oh.
so who's going to be the 2 old Jews, the first watchman and the second watchman?
I could go.
You're going to be the 2 old Jews? Okay, go ahead. First watchman.
Spit on. I might not spit, but to make him I'm not afraid of feel as bad, I spit. A dirty world. Second watchman. From Spain and Portugal, like mice into this hole, Holland, here we creep along our street, still as we can, when down comes a Uriel Acosta, prince in Latin, and shouts, the books of Moses are not by Moses. And the Dutch, shelter these Jews and they destroy our religion. The rabbis must come to the magistrates first. He hurts us as much as you, our enemy, as much as yours.
Our enemy as much as yours. Right, so the rabbis apparently are being accused here of handing over Acosta, Uriel Acosta, as a troublemaker and telling the non-Jewish authorities this guy needs to be handled, right? Because if he's going to cause disruption and questioning, it's not going to stop with questioning the Jewish Torah. It's going to start questioning all religion, and then you won't like that either.
If you look once, simply the moon, then a shadow on it, and sometimes it's broad as an orange or thin as a blade of grass. They've been tearing up his papers, but unless they tear up his brain, the brain itself tears up what the brain thought.
All right, here we are now. We're in prison. Uriel.
The lamp is now my son, and the wide night these cellar walls, the dripping from the cellar here, the rain and I, God, who sees night and sun at once. God falls asleep and wakes. After the longest while, falls asleep and wakes to the same universe. The sun burns in the night and the rain falls.
Here's the jailers coming.
If I could dig my fingers into the floor, hold like a tree.
Instead, they enter and drag him out. Scene 6. Now Uriel is in his room.
A fine, my writings burnt, after all nothing. Now I am fixed within them like a weed. That torn up, trampled grows again, the hardier for its torments. In someone's thoughts, somewhat of me takes root, until the statue crumbles to a stone again. None shall talk to me, as if I have not Plato, the prophets, Buddha.
And he sits down to a book, and a stone flies through the window, closes the shutters, against which stones begin to drum. So
You Jews,
1 second, he's out of prison. They've burnt all his writings. They still are isolating him, but at least they didn't kill him. And he says, what? So you're not going to talk to me? I've got better company, right?
you
Jews.
Jews.
1 second, please. I've got all the great thinkers from all of history and from different religious traditions. The prophets of Israel, Plato from the Greeks, Buddha from the East. So he's trying to calm himself down. But of course, right at that point, he suffers another attack from the outside. Good.
You Jews.
Turns the papers of his book.
My fingers sweat acid, and where I touch leave holes.
This is a quote. Go ahead. It's from the text.
And behold, a Canaanitish woman came out from those borders and cried, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed. And he said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. But if she were the servant of a centurion.
He turns the pages. So he's reading Gospels. Go ahead.
Yes.
Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all these things be accomplished.
Turns the pages some more.
Back from the dead, was this all you had to say? Have you anything to eat?
Have you here anything to eat?
Have you here anything to eat? They could not counterfeit that style.
Pushes the book aside.
The carpenter, despairing of his life, reached so surely for eternal life. While Buddha, the king's son, satiated, saw himself forever rid of life.
It's another book and turns the pages listlessly. So he's thinking about, he's got this kind of, Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, world weariness. This one is desperate. This one is satisfied. Each one is trying to come to terms with life itself. What does life really mean? Scene 7. 15 years later, Uriel's room after 15 years, and his brother comes in. Uriel.
So you dared not come before the rabbis consented?
We live with others. You yourself now seek us.
Yes, no one to talk to, even about trifles. I might have been buried in my grave. That shroud, the coffin chest, and solid earth, shutting out companionship. If you ever walked alone in the woods, even an hour, or through the fields far from houses, and returning, met a man, a kind of animal, nearer his dog or ox than you, did you not greet him gladly in that loneliness? I have been alone 15 years. My life is a frenzy of words spoken to myself.
Okay, so the brother, what do we learn about the brother coming to see him? He hasn't seen him in 15 years. And what it brings him now to Uriel? Right?
Because
The rabbi said it's okay.
Okay. So, and Uriel before was saying, I've got Plato, I've got Buddha, I've got the prophets, but after 15 years, he's really feeling the sadness of being so alone. Okay,
That is over. Penance will be light.
Have I not had enough to crawl back like this?
The rabbis, for the discipline of the congregation, must.
Well, if they must, you are married, of course.
The daughter of a merchant,
Children
a son.
and trade.
My share in ships to England and the Indies. I'll tell the rabbis fully of your intention, and God willing, shall be back at once, Uriel.
So I become at last a monkey among monkeys.
okay, so apparently there's a deal that's been struck, and Uriel will allow himself to be welcomed back into the community. But the rabbis have made certain conditions and he has to crawl back, right? They're going to make certain, make him do certain things to illustrate to the rest of the community that he hasn't gotten away with being his heretical self. And he will now be a monkey among monkeys. He's agreed to this. His brother runs out to go and tell them the good news. The brother has been able to live with everything, right? The brother has a conventional life. He's got a family, he does business, he gets along with everybody. And now, we'll see what comes next. Of course, this gives us that information, but also for me, it's like this, this little moment of just grabbing a second of family intimacy. Because he knows nothing about his brother's life now for these last 15 years. So for a half a second, he can learn a little bit more about this brother of his. But in the end, there's no time for that. There's no time for lounging around and just catching up. This is really about what he has to do next in order to overcome the excommunication. So now we're in a garden. The rabbi's servant comes in with Uriel and his brother. Okay, and the rabbi's servant, who's going to be that?
You want me to be the rabbi's servant? Because I was the Uriel's servant before.
So you're going to get typecast.
I'm going to get typecast, yeah.
All right.
Would you like me to do that? Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The rabbi asks that you await him here.
I need this son.
1 second, they stop at a bench and the servant leaves. Good work, Merle. Good. Let's go.
How much
I need this son.
So Uriel and his brother sit down. Now remember, he's been sort of like locked up all this time, even if he's under house arrest. So he feels the sun shining as he's sitting on this bench. Go ahead, Uriel.
Even our little walk has tired me. I did not leave the house weeks at a time.
If you were in a dungeon of the Inquisition, we too suffered. You too must be kind.
I'll be Rabbi Menashe. So he says to Uriel's brother, my sister's daughter is here from Antwerp. Uriel, leave your house. At your brother's... 1 second. How does this work? At your brother's, learn the happiness in a Jewish home and what you did not give us time to teach. Okay, so the rabbi is saying, look, we're giving you over to the care of your brother. And this way you'll learn what it means to live as a Jew. We didn't have the time. We tried to teach you and you resisted, but go to your brother's house and, soak it up from there. I'll see you at synagogue tonight. Stay. The porter will unlock this gate. He goes out. Uriel and his brother glance at the rabbi's niece off stage. Uriel.
So quick and eager, she has no place in a room. She belongs among trees and flowers.
Okay, I think Uriel thinks that she looks nice. The rabbi's servant comes in, but nothing to say yet. Go ahead, brother.
Now to the section to buy your prayer shawl, fringes, phylacteries, and skull cap.
Phylacteries is tefillin.
One phylactery is strapped to the inner side of the left arm, 2 fist widths from the shoulder blade. The other on the forehead, 2 fist widths from the nose's tip. Wind the strap 7 times about the arm and say,
Baruch, etc. So he's trying to teach him now again how to live like a Jew.
okay.
Now we're in Uriel's brother's house. And who's going to be the first Jewish merchant? And the second? David, how about it?
Sure, I'll be. Both of them?
Yeah, why not?
I do not like this, Uncle Uriel, in our venture.
Doesn't say uncle. But
What did I added? I do not like this, Uriel, in our venture.
okay, so apparently they're trying to get Uriel integrated into the community, and he should also be now part of the brother's business and do business with everybody else. And the first Jewish merchant doesn't like it.
Still, not to displease his brother.
Uriel comes in.
Good morning.
So you are to become a Jew again?
We who hold out against the world, was I not most the Jew, when I held out also against my fellow Jews? But we are here to talk trade, I think, not theology. What is your matter?
Right, so he says, isn't it Jewish to cause trouble? I was really Jewish all this time, right? But now let's get on with it.
When we told your brother of our undertaking, he wished to have you share in its certain profit.
Welcome, Uriel's brother.
I placed money, Uriel, in their.
Can't hear you. You disappeared.
She froze. We got through it.
You didn't read. I see you share reading, but you went into mute. Josie, you're in mute.
Be here this afternoon, and I'll
No,
have.
no, Josie, go back to I'd place money.
Oh, you couldn't hear me.
Nope.
I'd place money, Uriel, in their venture. No profit is sure, but in this, likely. This too will be distraction. Rub shoulders with enterprising men.
To the
If
merchant.
you will, be here this afternoon, and I'll have contract and golden ready.
Merchants leave. Now to Uriel.
You'll lose your hesitant speech, that stoop, that shamble. Become genial like a merchant.
All right. Now who's going to be Uriel's nephew? Merle, come on. It's up to you.
Okay, wait, okay.
Wait, is Derek here? Anybody didn't get a chance yet to be a star?
Uncle, 2 men are
Good.
2 men to see you, Christian.
I'll wait for you at my desk.
So he and the nephew go out, and the 2 Christian men come in. All right. Who's gonna be that?
I could be one of them.
All right, you could be both of them. Go ahead.
All right, one of the 2. We are students at the university, have read Rashi, Maimonides, Abarbanel, have come to think that our salvation is, perhaps, in being Jews. We have read your book of some 15 years ago and learned that you have just become a Jew again. Should we become Jews?
I thought my work lost, every copy of my book burnt. You say you have one?
We had, but lent it to a friend, he to another.
Well, no matter, the book lives. As to this, you ask one who once was Christian, then Jew, then non-Jew, and now again a Jew. Why incur the hate? At least the sufferance of Christians here, the great and dominant majority, until both Jesus and Jehovah are with Jupiter, Baal and Isis, believed in by intelligent peoples too, incur the odium, to shoulder a mass of prayer and petty regulation. But here I am a guest, and my brother waits for me. In my home, we will reason the matter through 7 and 70 windings.
Students go out.
There I have touched companionship.
Okay, so on the one hand, he's impressed. These are people that are searching. They've read his book. He never thought that the book still existed. In the end, what's his advice to them? He says, what do you need it for?
Yeah.
The Christians are the majority. You want to become Jews and be hated, or you'll get tolerated maybe? What do you need it for? And what? To do a bunch of regulations that don't make any sense? Now, I'm doing what I have to do. 7 windings, 70 windings, 170,000 windings. Who cares? I'm doing what I do. But on the other hand, just that little exchange with another human being is something that he treasures. Okay.
Rabbi, what does that line mean about until Jesus and Jehovah bow?
They're all the same. They're all the same. What do you want to be Jewish for? Jesus, Jehovah, the pagan deities, the Egyptian deities. They're all, everybody can say, oh, they're all the same. If you're intelligent, you don't see any difference between any of them. So why choose to be Jewish?
Okay. Still talking to yourself? Who were your visitors?
Students who have read my book.
I hope that we were quit of all that. Don't set too much upon idlers, busy to gape at a sensation.
Now there's a crowd. They heard it in the street, then on the stairs, and then the crowd enters and shouts at Uriel, I'll be the crowd. Unbeliever!
Have you not heard of his repentance, seen him in the synagogue? Surely you know that Rabbi Manasseh sent him here.
I'll be one of the crowd. We heard that what the two just here reported. We know, though he apes pious men, what he speaks in his heart of sacred laws and the Holy One. You hypocrite. Turning to Uriel. Okay, the brother.
Answer him. Tell him the truth.
He tells me that. Can I believe in what I left behind with my blocks and dolls? This is our parting, I suppose. Live and farewell.
Okay, and here comes Rabbi Menashe. Okay, Uriel Acosta. Did I impose a penance as others would? I was not wiser. A penance would have searched you somewhat. None shelter you, deal with you, talk or look at you until you come to the synagogue in mourning clothes, a burning candle in your hand, confess your errors to the congregation, strip to the waist to be beaten by the sexton, then stretch yourself upon the threshold for the congregation going out to step upon.
I had forgotten. So stupid is the mind, at least mine. Now what you are comes flooding back.
Right now he says, I forgot what I had in store for me. I was so dumb to open my mouth. Goes out through the silent crowd. Scene 10, 7 years later. Okay, Uriel Costa at the window of his room.
How many years since they stopped throwing stones? I suppose spinning tops became the fashion. They no longer trouble themselves to spit. As I pass, I am left alone, at last. I have grown so afraid of the stillness of this house and of the night. In a few hours, it will be night again. What though the city is wound about me mile on mile? The street lamps shine 8 to a block, and I light candles until the room is yellow. Upon me, mile on mile, leagues and leagues beyond measure, the night, and no one to talk to call, to touch. I sometimes think, keep on, into the fields and into new towns. What shall I do in a strange town? Will they know me? Will they not know me for a Jew? And after a mile or two, the sun and wind become hateful. Keeping indoors, I have become a mouse. I know all the cracks in the walls, which divide and which run into the floor or stop an inch from the ceiling. Most are born poor. I could have had anything, even here in Amsterdam. What can they do to me if I come back? Morning clothes and candle in hand. What do I care what the masquerade costume is? They will preach words. They will have beaten me. One backache more. The congregation is going out, shall step on me, and I am through. Must I keep on like this until I die here? But do we not all die alone? No, no. to have friends about, to distance the mind from, could you take it up?
That's it. Distract the mind from pain, dying,
And living.
Oof.
goes out. And he apparently committed suicide.
Ah,
That's the end of the story. So
Heavy.
any last thoughts from anyone?
well, the writer challenged all the certainties that we think we understand. I mean, obviously in these societies, you could be thrown out for questioning. And we live in a completely different world where we got lots of options.
Right.
That's
He lived a generation or so before Spinoza. But
Ah,
Spinoza was also a person who was kicked out of the Jewish community for being a heretic, except Spinoza eventually was able to make a life for himself, very simply. But he had people that he was in touch with. He had people to talk to, but he left the community. Acosta somehow wasn't able to do that. And like I say, he was the one. Spinoza was a kid when Acosta died. So he was the pioneer in thinking everything, and questioning everything. And he couldn't take it. He couldn't bear his own uniqueness.
This was in the 1500s?
He was born in the end of the 1500s and he died in the 1600s. I don't remember.
Rabbi, this is
Yeah,
Meryl.
Yeah,
So I see this as suggesting that, there's something to be said for being part of a community. You might not agree with everything, but being part of a community is something very important. In fact, for my family, when Molly was little, we decided ultimately to join a synagogue so that she would be part of a community other than our little 3-person family with all our relatives spread all over the place and not here.
Right.
So, that sort of touches me. I understand that.
And right. And his pain was that he couldn't play by the rules. Community is great for people who can find a place in the community, in the center, on the outskirts, a little bit more active, a little less active. But he has this connection, but in real life, he can't live it. And he cannot fit into the community. And we, in every close community, there's a tremendous strength to a close community, like small towns. Right? Small towns are even if it's, forget about religion, but a small town becomes everybody knows everybody, right? But if you don't fit in, if you are getting patient with what everybody else enjoys or at least takes for granted, then you're a goner, right? You're not going to be able to be happy. So that's the very painful problem, along with, as I said, his hopes, his illusions about what he was going to find in Judaism are not fulfilled, right?
But he didn't want to be
flexible.
He didn't want to be flexible. He wanted it his way.
Well,
And being part of a
honest.
community, you need to be flexible. You need to adjust. You
You
might
need
not like something, but like what we're doing now with this pandemic, we're adjusting to being a new community.
When is it adjusting and when is it being lying? Right? They're asking him to live a certain way and he thinks it's a lie. They want him to believe a certain way and he can't.
Maybe they're asking too much and they're not being flexible.
These are the problems. This is the beginning of modern Jewish life and we're still in the middle of it. Yep.
Well, the alternative of walking out the door and just finding a new town.
He says, what's going to happen there? I can't run away from this. I can't. It's, at that point, nowadays, it's more possible. But back in those days, it was impossible. He says, of course, I can't stop being a Jew. So what am I gonna do? All right. That's it for today.
that was
Thank
good.
you.
Thank
Thank you.